Happy freaking hump day. It is the Pundits Pundit, and we are live. I am your moderator, Denzel Snipes, and just sitting down finally is our co-host, Jenna Cheryl, the professional fan. Also got Jacob Christner, the Pundits Pundit down here. Oh, am I muted?
No, I think he's scratching his ear because I can hear you.
Oh.
I mean, I think he's the oldest one out of all of us, isn't he?
Jacob, can you hear me?
Jacob, your audio's messed up, babe.
Okay, he's going to come back in.
I guess the Pundit can't pundit tonight.
He'll be back. And then we also have the owner of the South Florida Tribune and the pilot and co-pilot and captain, crew, everything of the Sports Exchange Airlines or whatever. Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth, Morganroth. How's everybody doing?
You have one of the best intros I have ever seen, my friend. That is good stuff. I'm telling you.
Scott, he's good at this, man. He is good at it. He's watched a little too much wrestling in his time, but he's good at it.
Yeah, I got wrestling on right now.
That's why this time is perfect for me, because my husband and my father-in-law are watching wrestling right now too.
Mm-hmm. It helps whenever you grew up watching, the Michael Buffers, the Bobby the Brain Heenans, Tony Schiavone's, Jim Ross's, who else? Mean Gene Okerlund's, so like it kind of sharpens your skills after you watch decades of them, and just kind of come up with your own spin.
Well, let me tell you what, you want me to play the H card with this wrestling thing? You ever heard of Lord Layton, Dick the Bruiser back in Detroit?
Absolutely.
Hey, yeah, those guys, I was raised with these people, man. The Peril Furpo. The one guy I used to like, though, was Dandy Dan Miller. And the reason why I used to like him is because he had that arm claw hold. So if I couldn't beat anybody up, I'd grab him by the claw and squeeze harder as you can to get that advantage back.
What is up, Shearer? And I got to get a shout out to JB tonight, because he made a really crazy fantasy trade that shows that he had someone at gunpoint or some Trumpian type of blackmail. Let me call this out, Jen. I want you to hear it. It is, basically JB got Dalvin Cook, Joe Burrow, and Michael Thomas for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, and Christian Kirk.
Oh, my Lord. And Dobbins is still injured.
Yep. And Justin Fields has 28 passes in 2 games.
Yes, that is nuts. Hey, Scott, I got another name for you as far as announcers you may be familiar with. Lord Alfred Hayes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But I used to remember Lord Layton.
Lord Layton.
What
I liked about Lord Layton, though, anytime they got somebody's face, he used to go out there and mix it up and throw him around. This guy, not no typical announcer. This guy, he out there. Say, hey, get in my face. I'll go ahead and throw you outside the ring and give you a headache that Tylenol won't get rid of. Let me tell you, he did it. He wouldn't take it, from nobody. I'll tell you what, my days at the Cobo Arena, Olympia Stadium back in Detroit, long before.
The Sheik, Mark Lewin. Yeah.
I have a little wrestling in my domain. I just don't always let people know until you force it on me by bringing this stuff up. Then I have to go back deep into my background.
Deep in the archives, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, those are my echoes of the deep. I have a lot of caffeine tonight, though, by the way, Jen. I'm okay. I've been trying to.
So, do you know what's important about tonight's AEW match?
Oh, there's a world title.
Huh?
World title will be decided tonight.
But where's it being done at?
Where are they at? Are they in Charlotte?
No, it's the Grand Slam, baby. Arthur Ashe.
Oh,
Stadium.
It is Grand Slam. Yep, they're at Arthur Ashe. They sure are. They're all at that stadium. Well, just to let everybody know before we get started, we are sponsored by the Score Don't Score app on the App Store and Google Play Store. Basically, it is gambling for dummies, as Don Berubis would say. You get a set amount of coins, it's like 400 or something like that, and you can actually bet on plays. So if Stanton's going to get a home run, if Albert Pujols is going to get a home run, if Kyler Murray's going to score a touchdown, whichever.
Is Travis going to make a bad trade?
Yeah, pretty much. But it's really fun. It's awesome. As of right now, they only have baseball and football, but I'm sure that as the app gets more popularity, they will add more sports. But Google, not Google, it's in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. And we are going to get started on our first topic, and that is the Duke BYU debacle. Now, a little background. Some time ago, Duke BYU volleyball had a volleyball game, and it was said by one of the players and several others that they had overheard racial slurs coming from the BYU crowd. And so it was saying that, we heard racial slurs all game and such and such. And so BYU said that they had found no evidence of heckling that went on at the time period. And now there's become this thing about, were they making something up, just to kind of start a stir or anything like that. But I mean, I don't know. I would like to think, and I mean, nobody was physically nothing physical happened. Right. I would like to think it's not another Jussie Smollett situation or anything like that. But I digress. Jen, what do you think about it?
Okay, so my husband started listening to some of it was recorded on some social media, whatever, wherever. I never heard it myself. My husband said he thought he could hear them chanting or saying some racial slurs. However, it was not the person that they banned initially from any more BYU games. They banned that individual because he had gone up to the young lady after the match, but they were both wearing the same color uniforms, and he honestly thought it was someone else he knew. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Something happened, though. I think something was misheard, but there was enough to put security by the Duke bench. There was enough to incite an investigation. And I mean, I think that they may have been saying something that sounded a lot like it, but it wasn't that. Or I don't know, because I'm like you, and I said this to Jacob because a long time ago, because there was just not a lot of presence. I was like, do you think this could be made up, or do you think they misheard something? Because I don't want to think Duke would do a Jussie Smollett just to get attention for girls volleyball.
And now I will say this much, and actually shout out to Adam Gold. We actually covered this very topic about 2 or 3 weeks ago on both sides of the coin. Now, we'll say this much, and actually back in college a few years back, I wrote an opinion piece on what happened with Russell Westbrook, and that was when he was visiting the Utah Jazz. Seemingly, there's been incidents like this happening in the state of Utah. I know I've gone in some comments, and some Utah residents are like, yeah, they really are like that here. It's like the racist south of the mountain region or the west or whatever, So, I mean, this right here, I feel at the time period when I was talking with Adam Gold, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's not just make any knee-jerk reactions or anything. Right. All we can kind of go by is the small history with the whole Westbrook thing. I know it's another sport. I know it's another level. But we're talking about the same state because we know that these things can happen regionally. You know what I mean?
And Utah, and specifically BYU, like have you ever read their honor code?
No.
Great school, great academia. Their honor code is freaking ridiculous. A man and a woman can't be alone in a room together without a third party. I think they've taken it out, but at one point, like colors cut and mix, things like that. Like, I don't know, like it's jock. So do I believe it was said? Absolutely. Do I think that they tried to cover themselves? Yeah. 100% I do. And I'll be honest with you, Jay. Up until the time I moved to New Mexico, I had never seen a lot of racism. When I moved to New Mexico, I saw more racism in my life than I had ever seen before that. Like, that was so eye-opening to me that's a story for a different day. But, I mean, sadly, all that taught me was racism isn't just one area of the country or the world.
Yeah, it isn't just one area. And, I mean, I know that they have they're like an honor code and whatnot. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure, in the 1950s and 60s, Ole Miss had their own. And what was going on at that time period?
Oh,
The people who look like me, So just because they have an honor code doesn't necessarily mean that they adhere by it, But
exactly.
but I'll pass this on to Scott. Give me your thoughts on the situation.
When I hear these kinds of things, and I know you referred to another incident earlier. What was it? The one?
Westbrook and the Utah Jazz.
Right. Yeah. I'm having been in the business a long time, I worry about rushing to judgment on these fan bans because until I get all the information, I don't want. They always say innocent till proven guilty. Well, sometimes we prove people guilty before they're innocent, and I think we tend to really, again, rush to judgment. So I understand why BYU initially banned the fan. It was a bad look on the university. Anytime you have a bad look on the university, you want to let everybody know that you're attempting to solve the problem. But then when you go deeper into the investigation, it said, oops, and all of a sudden you have to try to fix it on the fly. So, and of course it cost them, I think, a series with the women's basketball with South Carolina. Weren't they supposed to go out there? And wasn't that series canceled?
And Don State
that's part of my point.
Right.
That's part of my point.
Right. So therefore, anytime you cost yourself a series with a South Carolina women's basketball to that, then the story becomes a bit bigger than it is. But the only thing I'll say pertaining to this subject, is I am very nervous about ever rushing to judgment until I get all my facts. I understand doing certain things at the beginning, interim, but I don't know. I think you need more time to uncover more things before anybody voices too much. But here's the problem we have nowadays. You have social media, right? So everything gets out there, and by the time it gets from one layer to the other, it goes viral. And then when it goes viral, then you're already convicted to begin with. Then your reputation goes down, and then what?
You lost in the court of public opinion.
Right. Oh, yeah. So you really can't do anything to bring your name. I mean, I'm wondering, and we don't know this, whether that fan could sue anybody for slander. You never know what's going to happen these days.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, everybody's looking for a money grab, right? You slandered my name, all of a sudden I'm bringing my attorneys into it. Then you got a totally different ball game altogether. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. So, there's so many different layers. I used to think one of my favorite desserts was an 8-layer cake, but this is an $888 million layer cake.
Layer cake, yeah.
Yeah, especially when you look at the fact that there's social media, public opinion, and perception. So, I know that Duke is a great university. They are, and BYU is a pretty good university. I've actually been out in Utah before when I covered some NBA basketball at the Salt Palace many years ago, and I was actually invited to a hockey game because I was taking a trip around the country and knocked out like 20 some odd states in a 30-day period. The only place that didn't like me was a rental car that I put 2,000 miles on a vehicle in 30 days. Of course, I paid insurance up front. But I traveled around different parts of the country, seeing sports. In fact, Jennifer, one of the places I did on that trip was New Mexico, and I saw a Lobos game over at the Pit.
Oh, yeah? The Pit's kind of cool.
It is. Well, I did that on the heels of Valvano winning a championship there, so there were certain venues I wanted. But all my interactions with the folks in Utah were very nice. Of course, a lot of them trying to convert me to Mormon, and they didn't realize, no, we're not going to have any part of that. Just don't charge me any major fees downtown at the parking things. It will be, I don't want a parking ticket. You Mormons don't want to.
That's for your career in Scientology.
What's that?
That's for your career in Scientology.
Exactly. So, as long as those Mormons didn't think I was a moron, of course, then again, everybody, depending on who you talk to, might think that anyways, except for the people in Montreal that want to kill me for insulting them on the road, not getting too far off subject. Bottom line, folks, is don't go out there rush of judgment until you get all your facts. Because if you do, then it can bite you on so many levels, more so now than it did when I was growing up in the business where you had just straight media, radio, TV, and newspapers. And now we know that it's a totally different animal altogether.
Yeah, absolutely a different ball game. I mean, Jacob, now before you go off on your thought, I'm lead off with this question. Do you feel, even though it's been about 3 weeks to a month now, do you think this is still knee-jerk reaction territory?
Absolutely. I am going to say this, and this is my whole point. My whole point is to the media here. Jen heard me. I said, I hope this doesn't go into possible hoax territory. Did I not say that?
Yeah.
I hope.
Like Jacob and I had like a long conversation about this.
Yes. And so I hope not. I was saying, don't make me do journalism here. I said that because I'm not a journalist, but I said, don't make me. I hear this. Okay, you all, do you remember, and I'm going to go out of order in the numbers here. Do you remember that kid who was the high school football star, wide receiver, I don't have the name now, who went to prison for 6 years for a rape he did not do, got
Brian Banks.
Huh?
Brian Banks.
Yep. Got excrated by the media. He did not do it. She lied.
And on top of that, LAPD did a terrible job investigating.
Yeah. Yes, but I mean, got excrated by the media, the LAPD, all that stuff. He got that. Do you remember the Duke lacrosse?
Yep.
Actually, that's what I was referring to.
You know Jussie, the Jussie Smollett deal, who got pulled. He got called out by Dave Chappelle.
Right.
He got called out by. That's where that lie came. He got called out on that part. This is where, and now this, and then here's the thing with this. And Scott, you brought this up about this losing South Carolina games. This guy got banned. He got himself back in, by the way. He got himself banned. He lost himself his reputation for a while, got his life threatened, got all this stuff over this type of deal because, and by the way, CNN and NBC called their own colleagues out for this. Even CNN and NBC doing this. I call this hit and run media. #.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of it. This is why I was bringing this up, Scott, about media. It's why I hate it. It's why I bring this whole thing up. They are cheering for racism to happen. Cheering for it instead of wanting to stop it.
Right.
And it's like this stuff, and I can't cuss on this thing. I know what Eric would do, but I am so sick and tired. And now, guess what? BYU lost a home and home with South Carolina. Right. There's Don Staley going, "Oh, I have my my sources." Your sources are like Elie Mystal, who is on the MSNBC constantly saying peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are racist or something every minute around the sun, saying these things. And it's like, we have race baiting, and I hate it saying it myself, because we have real racism out there.
We do.
Real stories. We have real stories, and they don't get called. They don't get anything. We have a video this morning that I had to see on YouTube of real racism. An decrepit old bus driver pushing little black kids to the back of a bus, in which they were in the front. The 5 to 10-year-olds supposed to be in the front seat of the bus. The old man pushed the black kids to the back.
Wow.
We don't see that on the news, whether it's Fox or anything else or CNN or anything. That's there, but I had seen it on Twitter this morning.
So here's the thing I have to say. I know you're going on a media tangent. I really try hard not to watch 24-hour news anymore. I try not to watch Fox, CNN.
Well, I don't at all. But
hold on, let me finish.
Sorry.
Because every single time one of those entertainers who mask as a journalist goes to court, they say, "Oh, this is an entertainment show. Consider me an actor. No one should really believe my opinion."
Mm-hmm.
And that has been said so many times. Like, even for updates on the war in the Ukraine, I now go to YouTube, go to international news stations that are local, and I watch that just to get updates, like, from what an outside worldly perspective is, because I don't want to give money. I don't want to give any kind of money to those stations. On a rare occasion, if I want to hear something, I will toss on CNN. But there's one other news station we'll go to sometimes. But yeah, I'm over it. Plus, it's always bitter and pissy.
All right, can I add one thing to this here that I think
Sure. Yes, Scott.
And this was really something that I was brought up with being an old school media guy. You know, Jacob, I completely understand where you're coming from with the media, but I'm going to tell everybody right now that when Ronald Reagan nearly got assassinated, okay, one of my idols in the business, was named Frank Reynolds. You ever heard of the name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, maybe you do. Anyways, I know you have 3 other subjects, but this is important.
No. We'll go on for this for a bit. Don't worry about it.
Okay, no problem. This is so important. Frank Reynolds, back in that day, it was about getting everything on there first and not accurate. Well, let me tell you something, okay, my co-host there. Frank Reynolds blew a gasket, and I repeat, a gasket on the air when there were premature comments about who passed away and who didn't. I don't want to get into logistics. He says, I don't give a damn about getting it first. I give a damn about getting it right. Yes. You don't ever hear me yell on these shows, but this is one of those rare instances when I'm doing it. And, when you look up and what I ended up doing, I've always liked Frank Reynolds. Few people realize that he was one of the first people that ever started Nightline before Ted Koppel took it over during the Iran crisis. So I was out there covering the Lions and the Redskins years ago. I went over to Arlington Cemetery and I went by Frank Reynolds' gravesite, and I stayed there for like 5, 10, 15 minutes and said, Frank, because of what you did on national television, I will always stand by your ethics about doing journalism the right way. Don't go out there and be first, getting it right. Even though, don't get me wrong, I worked pretty hard to get it all, the facts, then get it first, because it's a competitive industry. It's a lesson that everybody should learn. Okay, and unfortunately, in this day and age,
I think you froze, or did I freeze?
I can still see you.
You're good.
Go ahead, Scott.
Jacob's point, and Jacob, you're 100% white, so thanks for getting me going on this subject, because I think the lesson for all journalists will be out there and realize that even though you have the insanity of social media, everything that's going on, Frank Reynolds, it's a long-lasting life lesson. Don't be first, try to get it right. And one of the things that I always learned, one of the first books I ever read was Marshall McLuhan had The Medium as a Message. I don't think he ever thought it would ever get to this level. But
I'll say this quick thing, and I'll swing it back to Jacob because I know he's not done. But people have to take a step back and think about what could this accused lose if they're innocent.
Right.
There's I don't know if you all know, but the story of Nikki Yorvino back in 2018. She falsely accused 2 university football players of rape at a party. It was proven to be false by people there, and also she admitted it to the investigators. She actually ended up doing a year in prison for filing a false report. But immediately, these dudes was kicked off the team, and they lost their scholarships. And they're still having to deal with the effects of it, So to everyone's point, I agree with you. It's like you cannot be knee-jerk like this because you may be 100% innocent, but you just never know. Whoever out there that doesn't like you, whoever out there who has some sort of negative perception on you, it's going to be burned into their mind. There's a little something called confirmation bias, where you seek out information that may halfway be, and it's like it's not even that bad. Oh, well, he likes to party. Okay, well, so does everybody, but not everybody there at that party was doing anything. Nobody was doing nothing. She openly admitted she did it because she wanted to impress someone who she was in love with or whatever, I just wish people, because Brian Banks and Jacob brought up Brian Banks, he was absolutely robbed. He was absolutely robbed. And not to mention the girl who falsely accused him, she was like, well, I don't want to go out there and fraud it because all the money that I was paid, I don't want to have to pay it back. And she was set up by her mother to do it as well. So these were 2 dirty females who set up Brian Banks. This dude was a stud at USC. This dude was on his way. Now, he did get his shot eventually with the Atlanta Falcons, but it's one of those damage that had already been done. Right. And who knows what he's dealing with nowadays, Someone out there.
Was he able to sue the city and the state?
I think so. I'm going to have to actually look that up. I think he did file a lawsuit.
Because there are people who have been wrongfully convicted getting $15-20 million. Someone who is NFL caliber?
Yeah. And think about this for a second. People get wrongfully accused. The police don't do their due diligence, and you're getting innocent men locked up because it's political. They need the stats. That judge needs to be reelected and whatnot. You're making false accusations. Yes, you're making false accusations concerning racism. You know who Carolyn Bryant is. You know who that affected.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I just want people to, take a step back and just think, you know what? Maybe I should look at both sides before I form a decision.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jacob. Go ahead.
Racism is so real still. Like I said, I saw the video today of those kids. I saw it on the video. That's like there are old men out there with that thought process and the mindset, everything. It's real. But it is so ugly when people, it is still real out there. It's so ugly when people have to make it up. They make up stories. And it's like, and then they'll make up, okay, and it's the same. Rape is real. And then there are women that'll make it up.
Well, and there's also a Republican congressman who sent out that said no one can force anyone to have sex.
Yeah, I know that. It's like, but do you
know like he got a Twitter response from my happy derriere.
Do you know though what the difference is between sideline sports, us right here, and the rest of the world right now?
We have these conversations.
Yes, and you're right, these conversations. But do you want to know? Here's another thing. Unless we're mocking him, there's no conversation on Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
We're mocking him. So we're mocking the face paint
or an occasional reference to when he owned a
sure, but
tried to buy the Bills.
But you're right, absolutely, or the Cowboys. Here's the thing. There's the reason on that. We might be the closest to getting him than they will be because they're aiming for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're aiming for it. We four would be the shot of getting him if there's anything to get, because we're not aiming. We're not going, yeah, woo, we got to get now. We got it. He wants that hate.
Yeah, of course he does.
He wants that hate. He wants that emotion. Ignore him.
And and to Jacob's point, and also to the point of why people make up things like this, what if I told the three of you, and you well know this, that there's an addiction out there that's just as bad, if not worse than drugs, worse than alcohol, worse than sex? Attention.
Exactly.
Addiction to attention. People, we've seen it. They will do and make up anything, knowing they're wrong. But as long as the eyes are on them, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to go there. You might as well just talk about the guy from Notre Dame.
I just watched him today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to mention that. If you're looking for a relationship that was a match made in Antarctica out there, I can't even get Antarctica out. There you go.
I was going to say anarchy. A match made in anarchy.
A match made somewhere. As far as I'm concerned with this character, you might as well say Mars, because got antennas sticking out of his head to make up a concoction like that. I don't think I'm that smart enough to come up with something like that. The problem that you have nowadays, though, in this society,
everybody wants to be a victim. Sorry, Scott. So many people want to be a victim, and that's why there's so much anger, because no one is actually supposed to have the victim mentality.
Bring this up. Bring this part.
You're not supposed to have it.
Yeah. And let me tell you this, Jay. You know what I've said about this with Jussie? I'm going to bring this up about Jussie.
Mm-hmm.
His thought process, Jussie's thought process in this whole thing, 2 Nigerian bodybuilders, his thought process to helping his career, quote unquote, was to get beat up.
Yeah.
So he could be a victim. It wasn't, I'm going to kick their ass. He would have had he would have been a gay action hero. The minute he shows some kind of choreography of kicking their ass and paying them for it, he would have been a gay action hero. Do you know how big his career would have gotten? Instead, his thought process is to be a victim.
Yeah.
That is everybody's thought right now. It is the victim instead of overcoming.
Because victims get you what? Attention.
Yes.
That's why people are sitting here lying and making stuff up nowadays, because being oppressed is cool. No, read history and look what happens to true oppressed people. Is that what you really want?
Well, but then you're going to go there.
Country right now. Look how divided we still are.
If you're going to go there, Jennifer, okay, you might as well just say, welcome to the age of fake news, which I don't pay attention to this garbage anyways.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, you can
True.
even trace fake news back to World War II.
Yeah, but there
Propaganda.
Because honestly, I think it was the New York Times, and I may be wrong, so I apologize if I'm wrong, but it was one of the big New York papers that knew exactly what was going on in Germany, willfully chose to report the opposite. This was before we entered the war.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's gone on forever.
Yellow journalism.
Right. But the problem is very few people knew about it because you didn't have enough astronauts on the moon to slap these satellites out there for anybody to do it. So I'm with you. It's always been the same way throughout the years, just different methods to get it out there. And now it's just exploded where you have 9 million satellites all over the place.
It's the fan.
Exactly.
It's the fan. You know, but we did reach the halfway point of the show. This was a really deep topic. Just want to remind everyone out there that we are sponsored. Let me put it back up here by the Score No Score app. So please go to the Apple App Store and Google Play Store and have some fun. We got MLB playoffs coming up. The NFL season's just started. So awesome time. Really great time to be using this app and tuning into it. So once again, it's at the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store on your smartphone. And now let's go to our next topic, and that is, I don't know which one of y'all on here hate Colin Cowherd so bad. I'm excited to say Jacob. It was you. But the phoniness of Colin Cowherd. Now, just a short soliloquy.
I like his new name. Colin Cowherd.
Cowherd. Yeah, Cowherd at the county. Cowherd at the county.
Yeah. Just a short spiel on my end. Initially, I wasn't a fan of his at all. I thought that he bounced back and forth, like he couldn't just pick a side and stick to it. There was one time, one year in which I was like, okay, this guy does not know what the hell he's talking about. So every single year, he always does his pre-predictions for the NFL, who's going to finish in the division. And one year, he had the Colts finishing 10-6 and winning the division. And I was like, unless Tom Brady got traded to the Colts, how are they going to win 10 games with no defense and no Andrew Luck?
Right.
So that right there, I was like, yeah, I can't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a Texans fan. If you don't have this one, fine. Okay, I get that. You know what I mean? But you had the Colts winning. The Titans were in better shape. Like, come on now. You know? So, but I don't know. I mean, I'll actually swing this to Jacob first because I know he really doesn't like him. But go ahead and give us your thoughts on.
He's in his cheekbones. He's really not happy.
Yeah.
Colin Cowherd is the reason for this show. It is. He's the reason for Pundits Pundit. He invented it, essentially. Because I kept watching him and kept seeing him flip it around all the time. And I'm like, okay, I like his format, but he's a liar. He's a liar, and he is. And I want to get a show that is like his, but we are going to tell the truth. Get the idea? But he is singular with one producer. It's like, which Jennifer and I started with this. You know what I mean? We and then we have all of us, and I love our format anyway. You know, but
right.
Yeah, we know you're just trying to push the chick out. It's cool.
Yeah. The thing about him that I really have an agitation with is his daughter dated Trey Lance. So when his daughter was dating Trey Lance, he was all over him. He literally said, now this daughter's not dating Trey Lance anymore. He literally said, it's an ankle, it's not a neck. He has nothing to worry about. He'll be fine. They're better with Jimmy G. Spending all last year saying they need to put Lance in instead of Jimmy G. There's no. He is an opportunist and a liar. He has done this. He will say, "Oh, I never said that," over and over again. He's the ultimate opportunity. He's the business person, like you said. It's a show. He treats it like such. He is basically the Alex Jones of sports. He is the Alex Jones of sports. He will bring those. No, my biggest thing is I will give his format credit for what Pundits Pundit, what we have on our thing. And guess what? I will not be pushing out this girl like he's trying to push out his.
Yeah.
It's like, because we've got something awesome. He doesn't realize what he has awesome in the first place. Remember Joy Taylor?
True.
He didn't realize it for himself. The biggest thing about it is the fact that there are too many people, Stephen A. is another, that will be opportunistic and pretend they didn't say something and then do their hit and run media just to make a show out of everything. When people in the internet and the YouTube world understand that they did say it.
Right. I totally. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You got to hold up your end. And I think the Pundits Pundit, I think Sideline Sports, I think all of it will survive better and get over time, long term, is because no matter whether we're right or we're wrong, we're going to stick to ourselves.
Yes, if you're gonna, I mean, shout out to John Shearer. He popped in the comments. As egregious as his takes may be, that man will die on that hill. He will not switch up.
He's gonna blow up and have a bunch of holes from the M80 right inside of him for his opinion.
Yeah,
he sure will.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to say something in Jimmy G's defense, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Because I know that's not the topic.
Go ahead, Jen. You're good.
Because we all know I don't like Tom Brady, right? We're all aware of this. Like, I've made no bones about it. Like, I literally had to begrudgingly say he was the GOAT of the postseason for NFL. I won't give him the GOAT. I'll give him GOAT of postseason because I think there's other quarterbacks. However, Jimmy G sat behind Tom Brady, who is probably one of the most winningest quarterbacks of all time. For how many years?
Yeah, it's about 3.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason when Jimmy's contract was up with the Patriots, every single NFL team was hammering for him.
Not to mention, Bill Belichick wanted to get rid of Tom and keep Jimmy G.
Right. And a year or two later, that's when Gronk retired the first time.
Mm-hmm.
All the dissension between Belichick and Tom started happening. And yeah. And just so you know, I don't think that Tom and Giselle are actually having marital issues. I think that the media is just bored.
It might be a stunt, yeah.
Because a month ago he was on The Masked Singer.
But I want to swing it over to Scott. But before you go off on your tangent, just want to lead off with a question. When you watch a Colin Cowherd clip or the entire 2.5, 3 hour show, what's the first word that comes to mind about Colin Cowherd?
Unethical.
Mm-hmm.
Unethical. You're talking about old school journalism guy. I watch this clown. Okay, now I'm going to use the word clown here because nowadays you want to go to the circus, you can always see a clown, right? Okay. So I didn't like him on ESPN. But here's what you have in today's media. You got more and more big networks out there trying to fill sports programming, and you're looking for personalities, so to speak. Stephen A. Jacob brought him up anyways. I could take him or leave him. I'm more of a Bob Lee kind of guy, that kind of guy.
I remember Bob Lee.
Yeah, well, I met him a few years ago. I'm a firm believer of old school journalism, people that did it the right way. I already mentioned Frank Reynolds. But Colin Kaepernick, Cowherd, well, you might have called him Kaepernick too. Just kidding with you. Okay.
Kaepernick.
Right, too. Yeah. Unethical because you know what? He represents the flavor of the day. How many clicks can you get? If it weren't for the fact that when I grew up, ABC, NBC, and CBS is all you had. Then ESPN came and then Fox came along. And with each of those opportunities, more and more people had opportunities to go off on their own way. And now you know what you have now. You've got Pat McAfee interviewing Aaron Rodgers these days. That's really where we've gone.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can say is I never really watched him much on ESPN. Never liked his style. Never will. Because if you're unethical, you're phony. And if you're phony, you're out. Okay. I don't have time for that stuff. I'm way too busy doing other things to advance my platform. Now, Smith, I can tolerate. It's not easy, but I tolerate it because the only reason I can tolerate him a little bit, I'm not getting off topic, is he does research his stuff a little bit better. And when I hear certain points, okay, then I'll tolerate the loudness. Okay. Now, I once talked to Lee about Smith, and he wasn't allowed to talk about anybody or didn't want to about any ESPN personalities. He said, Bob, you don't even have to. I will do it for you. Okay, Bob. There are certain individuals that are too darn loud on this thing, and I idolize you, okay, because of the fact you did it the right way. Let's spin it back to Cowherd. I didn't care for him at ESPN, and I'll be darned if I followed him at Fox. I've seen him from time to time at the Super Bowl, and I've covered and walked by him and never said a darn thing to him. Don't care to acknowledge people that don't do things a certain way that I feel go against ethical integrity type standards. I mean, you know, say what you want. I had an opportunity to meet Barry Bonds, and instead I went over to the Miami Marlins clubhouse after we beat Bonds in the postseason and got soaked with champagne and loved every soaking moment of it. So the reality is, if it's unethical journalism, the only thing I can thank Howard for now is if he's the reason that we got Pundits Pundit and I have a gig here, fine. But I'm still not sending him an email or a Christmas card. Okay. The only thing he has are decent looking moderators or whoever, because that's all he's got going for him. I don't believe I can actually call him the Mante Sao, or I don't even know how to pronounce this clown's name.
Anti-Teo.
Well, whatever. You do it for me. If I have, I'm like, again, it's a Hawaiian name. Nothing against the people in Hawaii, so don't shoot me. Montreal people many years ago wanted to.
Racist.
Just you really don't want me to say that, do you? I really got on him one time for booing the national anthem, and I was right for the Detroit Sports Broadcast Association. I got more death threats than the automobile makers produce automobiles, and then they had really cool things out. I wouldn't be talking to you because I'd be dead.
Well, let me bring this part.
Long story short, he's unethical. That was your initial question, and I don't deal with people. And if it weren't for the fact that you have bigger networks, I don't think you'd even hear about them.
Well, you brought up John Shearer. I'm going to say this. You brought up John Shearer, Jay. You brought him up. Look at he and I. He's either a short me with a beard or I'm a tall him without one.
Basically.
One of the two. It's like, look at the thing about it is, there's one thing, though, with Shearer and I. When this whole thing gets bigger, you know, with all of us, and we get everything like that, the only thing that people on the internet's going to be able to do with us is make crap up, because we absolutely stick to it. Look at him with his dying on the hill. What have I done with the Harden deal, the Grom deal?
Everything.
Boom, 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 boom. I mean, just beat it in. And by the way,
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay.
Harden. You forgot Harden. But no. I mean, I just bang it in, and it's like, oh, Jordan's back, awesome. But and Jim Rome's a wuss. But I'm just saying, we bang it in, and it's like all they can do if you're banging in is make up what we might say that we've said something, because we are stick to our guns. You do it with a Cowherd. You talk about the 10-6. I bet you anything when they finished last place, he said, "Oh, I told you they were going to finish last."
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go.
And without the little thing of irony. And that's our point about something. We will say we're wrong if we miss it. We're not wrong often, but we'll say it.
Yeah. Say own it. And I'll tell you what, and one of the things you guys are going to find out as I come on every single week, I'm about the most old school journalist you'll ever do it. And you can thank Frank Reynolds for that, as well as my other mentors along the way. Okay. If you make a mistake, you own it. There's nothing wrong. We're all human. But don't sit here and say one thing and contradict it. It's called paradoxical communication.
Communication,
I had to write a thesis on that subject years ago, but to get this. Okay. So I understand, and I majored in communication at USF. So I'm with you all the way, Jacob. I really am. You don't say something and all of a sudden you backtrack, because that constitutes, I want to get clicks and attention. And that's really what it, to me, is journalism should be and isn't about.
No, it's not at all. And don't get me wrong, I get it. You need personalities, but at the end of the day, people respect authenticity. They respect truth. It may be something they don't want to hear, but eventually they'll respect truth. Because at the end of the day, when you cut these cameras off and we put these microphones away and everything. Right. So I always tell people, you can be what you want in front of the camera, in front of your friends, but that bathroom mirror is cold-blooded. That bathroom mirror will never lie to you.
Good point. Never heard it that way before.
And the one thing, Jen, that's the one thing we had from all of this when we first did our shows before when we got our format now, is one of the things that we talked about is we started it with one big, like a couple of big topics. and found a gold mine. And the main thing you and I talked about 1,000% was being honest.
Exactly. Sure. And that's all we are. Yeah, I don't know who else be. Hold on one second. Mark Twain said it best, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
well, let's just remember.
Go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
No, it's fine. I mean, but and that's the thing. Like, Jacob, you and I have always been honest with each other. We've told things to each other that we didn't necessarily want to hear, but or necessarily want to say. But that's what it's all about. And I mean, like, I'll pick on you, and sometimes people think I'm being mean, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's our dichotomy. Like, that's our relationship.
I'm a trash talker.
Sorry, that came out wrong. You don't know. But...
I'm a trash talker to the end. I could care less. But Jay, the biggest thing I remember an episode of Fat Albert once. Mm-hmm. I remember an episode of Fat Albert that was very smack at the beginning. One of the characters was going, go this team. I've spent so long. Go that team. Why are you voting for both? So I don't lose. That's Colin Cowherd. That's Colin Cowherd.
Yeah.
Well, when you talk about Colin Cowherd, I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I'd say that's why when you appreciate the Dan Rathers out there, and then you go out there and appreciate the Frank Reynolds, as well as the Tom Brokaws, the Walter Cronkites, all these guys.
Well, Rather pretty much lied and ended his career, though, too. You know that.
Well, he did at the end, but for the bulk of his career, he played it by the book. So, you know.
And that was hate. That's a hate we talked about, though. That was hate. He was aiming to go after something. Hate will make you do so much when you're a smart person. Even when you're smart, hate will make you do stupid things.
Right, but I'm talking about the bulk of his career. I'm not talking about what I look at the body of work, Jacob, okay?
Yeah,
absolutely. Not the very ending. Because remember, when you're a young journalist, you're brought up with certain standards. And even if you take the Rathers out of the equation, don't sit there and tell me you're going to look at a YouTube video when you go out there and tell me Frank Reynolds and review these, and as well as the other ones, news people, because you have a lot of news sports people that like Bob Lees that did it right. Dick Schaap was another one. Again, that's a subject that I know we could go on and on, but it all comes down to your initial subject about the fact, to me, Colin Cowherd, from what I'm hearing, is just simply two-faced is what he is.
Yeah.
He's two-faced and he's not honest. And you know what? That's why I don't watch him. Period. I don't watch them anymore because I'm not interested in that kind of journalism, if you call it that.
If you call it that. But we do have to move on to our next topic. We got about 13 minutes left. We had a bit of a breaking news story earlier, and that is Suns
Sports
and Mercury owner Robert Sarver is making plans to sell the Suns and the Mercury. And before I swing it to Jen, I just want to say briefly to whoever may be watching this telecast is, if you're keeping score at home, this is the third owner that's about to lose their franchise in as many years due to racism. When is it going to sit in? They are not. They are not. Playing around with things like this.
At least about 20 more.
Yeah, these are, and you know what? Maybe, just maybe, we are starting to see the changing of the guard. Jacob and Jen, you've heard me mention many a night about the old generation of sports owners. Yeah, you're back. About the old generation of sports owners, and the Jerry Joneses who said his thing. Bob McNair has said something about the inmates running the asylum and so forth. And it's like, okay, Donald Sterling, they got him. Kelly Loeffler was ousted by her own team. And now you got Donald Sarver. So
Marjorie Taylor Greene ousted by her own team.
Her own team as well, yes, So, I'll swing it to you, Jen. What are your thoughts? Do you think that more sports owners are going to lose their team to the same thing?
Well, in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that it is no longer possible that whatever good has been done or could still do is outweighed by the things I have said in the past. Who do we think said that, close. Gentlemen?
His was closer to than the past. It was almost now.
That being said, I think Draymond Green's podcast had a lot to do with it. I would love to say Chicks and Salsa and Three Chicks had to do a lot with it, but I got to be real here, okay? I got to be real. So that being said, we still have McNair as an owner. We still have Jerry Jones as a misogynistic, racist owner. We still have Dan Snyder I don't know if he's been accused of racism, but he's definitely misogynist.
Right.
We still have the dirty owners. And to me, it's not an age thing when it comes to this. It's I have power. Let me lord it over your head. I have money that equates power.
Right.
Well, you know what? Money don't mean shit. Sorry, Eric, I love you. But it don't. Because you can make it. I'm already working on my next $2 million because I've already given up on my first. But, you know, we gotta, like, people just have to, I'm so frustrated by this. And Sterling had to sell, or had to. He was forced out of the NBA. Jerry Richardson chose to sell because he did not want to tarnish the Panthers' bad name. Really, Rushy Hatton? Not gonna lie, I think he'd be better than what I have now. But Snyder's intact. I want to know what Michael Jordan thinks.
Michael Jordan can care less.
No. Oh, LeBron. I disagree with you, Jacob.
No,
I disagree with you.
You want to know LeBron?
LeBron's already made it known. Sorry for shouting. Didn't mean to hurt your ears. LeBron's already made it known. Come on, I can't say what I want to. But, and plus, I respect Jay, and Jay likes LeBron, so I'll be nice to Jay tonight.
Well, so Jay's happy that I go after Harden all the time and not LeBron.
Well,
you said your little
here's my thing. LeBron gives up on his team and on himself all the time on the court. And he is easily the most naturally gifted athlete.
Yeah.
But he gives up on himself. If he didn't give up on himself, how much better could he be?
Jennifer,
that is why I don't like him.
There's one owner that you guys are forgetting, though, a long time ago was Marge Schott of the Reds.
Oh my Lord. Yeah. How many times have I brought her up on this show?
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you. Okay. I used to cover the Reds during spring training back in the 80s, and I did stuff with the Tampa Tarpons. Marge Schott is definitely no saint, even though she's a female. So, in my opinion, here's a woman. They ran her out as quick as you can run her out.
Well, she loved Nazis. She loved Nazis.
Well, whatever. They ran her out. Nazis, whatever. I'm not going there with you, Jacob, there. The bottom line is here's a woman that wouldn't even pay for her own player's plane ticket to go home. Then he ended up going to Detroit. Eric Davis is who I'm referring to. And you know what? The reality is Marge Schott to me was anything but a saint. Okay, so while I believe that Sterling, to me, is the worst owner ever or one of in pro sports history, Jerry Richardson, at least you can thankful he brought the NFL to Charlotte, okay?
Right, and I actually have to go back and thank WWE and NASCAR for allowing them, opening the doors for the NBA and then the NFL.
Right, but Richardson brought football there.
Exactly.
We know that Dan Snyder, okay? Here's the thing that we can't forget in this whole thing, okay? Unless it hits you in the wallet, you're not doing anything about it. Do you think that when Dan Snyder didn't want to get rid of the Redskins until the sponsors caved in, that's what you've got here? Forget the racist stuff with Sarver for a moment. It's costing him with PayPal now, the domino effect where it's going to cost him in the pocket. If you can unload this franchise at the highest value that you can right now and wash your hands of it, because everybody's washed their hands of you. I don't care about Draymond Green's broadcast. Everybody nowadays podcasts are what it is. Then you might as well sell high while you can, while the values are, and get out of it. It may not eliminate the damage that you've caused yourself personally with the unforgiving manner for how you went out there and talked about it. But yeah, I guess you better sell now, because if you don't, you're going to lose sponsors right and left anyways. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. But I just want to make sure that when we had this episode here tonight, that Marge Schott's name got thrown into the arena. And I felt in my mind that she's certainly no saint of anybody. That's for sure.
She's basically Roseanne Barr, who was a sports owner. But swinging it on over to Jacob.
Nice Roseanne Barr reference.
I'm going to you, Jacob. Hang on.
Okay.
Before you go, just lead off with this question right here. Do you think that they're going to start like cracking down even more now, or is it going to be just like until it comes along?
Sure, because they really were doing it from Sterling. They just really were. But here's the thing, though. You brought up Jerry Jones. When you look at, and this is perspective thing. This is what media does, but this is perspective deal. When you look we've seen both Jones more often than once, obviously, on there, but we also saw Sarver. When you look at Jerry Jones, he looks like a charmer. I'm saying to the perspective of people. Sarver looks like a prick. He looks it.
I'm not
he
gonna
sounds
lie.
it.
Jerry Jones just looks creepy to me.
No, understood. But I'm talking about he gives that smile and he gives off. Yeah, you can have he gives off that whole thing of, you can have a free box for the night. That you get my point on something like that. Sarver looks like something like Sterling did a long time ago, that if you won $1,000, he would try to do a double or nothing and not give it to you anyway. Sarver looks like that. He looks like a jerk. He looks like slime. People
it's only because of his nose. He has RBF, resting bulldog face.
Yeah.
You're gonna say something?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I think a lot of these situations are going to be judged by a case-by-case situation, not in terms of any new trends. I think you do. I think the only reason the Sarver thing blew up is, number one, he did get the 1 year and then that hefty fine. And all of a sudden, once again, media took over and then the sponsors, and then he was called out with a minority owner. And then all of a sudden the Avalanche started to go. So it's a case-by-case situation. That's what I think, case by case. I don't think you're going to see any new trends here.
Here's my question. He's seeking like $3 billion. The minority owner is actually a pretty large shareholder. So does that include his part of the team?
Right.
Or is he just looking for his part of the team? Because if that's the case, then he's asking way too much. And this is more money than we will ever imagine. But
and you know what? I've got an additional question.
Sure.
Did the NBA get it wrong? Because because here's the thing, you suspended him for a year for $10 million. Okay, now you can't boogie back and say, "Oh, well, no, you're just banned," because technically you'd be punishing him twice for the same crime. So you had to get in his ear, exactly. So you had to get in his ear and convince him to sell. Why didn't you just ban him the first time around?
Well, you got to remember, though, there's bylaws, too. You have to have 3/4 vote to even get them out of there to begin with. You have to understand the legal.
And that's why Draymond asked for the vote, the NBA owners to take a vote.
Well, but that was then. But we're talking about with the commissioner. You got to remember the rules to how to oust the commissioner. Everybody wanted Sterling. You get 100% of that to get rid of him. I mean, that was inevitable. So you have to make sure we don't lose sight of the legalese in this situation, all right? That the commissioner was allowed to go 1 year, $10 million to stay out of it. But then obviously this thing spiraled out of control to where it's at now. So again, we have to make sure that you know all the legalized, and then everything would subsequently take care of itself.
Actually, Scott, you just made me think of another question.
Sure.
Is it because of Sterling that they just banned him and fined him for 1 year? Because Sterling's racist comments were never directed at players. It was a conversation between he and his then girlfriend. The girlfriend leaked the tapes. So it was a private conversation.
Yeah, but Jennifer, the one thing I'm sorry to interrupt you, okay?
No, go for it.
Well, when you go ahead and Magic Johnson gets involved knocking Sterling, boy, you got a big problem, because this guy single-handedly with Bird saved the darn NBA, and it was on tape delay. Remember, you start matching with Magic Johnson, okay? Robert Sarver wasn't. If you think Chris Paul and Magic Johnson are on the same level, then we're all delusional. We are. So don't mess with Magic. Don't get him criticizing, because to me, Magic Johnson is the closest thing that got in the NBA, considering where the heck it was before when he came in. So there's a difference. Again, Jen, and the longer you're around me, I will always tell you, watch the legalese about what the commissioner is allowed to do and all the things.
Well, and that's what I'm asking. Is it because of Sterling that they only banned him for 1 year and $10 million and picked up the phone and said, it's the best interest of the league for you to sell?
But you need 3/4 vote, Jen.
You need it, but you can still make a phone call.
Okay, you can make the phone call, but in the end, you still have to follow the process.
Right.
There was no process. They wanted him out. They wanted him out, Jen.
Okay, and that was my question. Was it because of Sterling being forced by the NBA to sell that they only banned Sarver and fined him?
Well, you're trying to compare Sarver and Sterling. I don't think, to me, if you're going to compare Sarver and Sterling, you know what? Why don't you compare black and white TV versus color TV? Because you're looking at a totally different picture. You really are.
Because Sterling's conversation was in private. It was never public. Sarver's have been in public.
But either way, they got out.
Well, yeah, they did. So my question is just, is it because of, at the end of the day, it's the same racist situation?
I think where you're trying to get at, Jen, is, and we have two things can be true here. They're different scenarios, but it's the same context. Now, in Donald Sterling's case, yes, it was a private conversation, but you got to remember, about 80 to 85% of the NBA is black.
Right.
Probably 95% of his own team, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Then in Sarver's case, a little bit different, but it's the same context. And when you have a league that has taken part in the last some odd years following George Floyd of we want to end racism, well, we can't just sit back here and just talk about it. We got to be about it. Nah, buddy, you got to go. Whether it's Sterling in his situation or it's Sarver in his situation, they're putting their foot down. 50 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. Right. They're putting their foot down. Racism will not be tolerated.
Yeah. Right. But the one thing you have to understand, Denzel, okay, it wasn't until the money with PayPal and all the other stuff started coming out with Draymond that it all became a financial thing and image thing based on the George Floyd.
No.
My point.
I think PayPal was just the beginning, and it's like I think that was the only story we heard, and I'll bet you over and over every sponsor they had was going to be taken out.
That's I'm betting that this was a lot worse behind closed doors because the minority owner, I assume is a minority too based on his name, and I apologize if I'm wrong because that's an assumption, did like within 12 hours say Sarver needs to sell.
Yeah, and you know, I do.
It was behind closed doors too.
And I do agree also on Scott's point, and Magic Johnson and Bird essentially saved the NBA because before they came along, and we've talked about this on Basket Bros, Jacob, as far as product on the court, the ABA was smoking the NBA.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was smoking them. So Magic and Bird did save the NBA. So does he hold weight in this? Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a Pantheon great. He's Mount Rushmore on a lot of people's lists.
Well, listen, don't piss off Magic Johnson if you have any cotton picking sense.
And even if you don't appreciate him in like the sports world, the fact that he overcame HIV/AIDS.
Right.
I mean, come on. Jen, HIV, but even when he had HIV, they had him in the All-Star game, and then nobody wanted to play with him. So forget that. Everybody was worried because they didn't have enough information. But either way, okay, he saved the NBA, period. Okay, and they always say it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature. Well, it ain't nice to fool with Magic Johnson either.
Well, that'll get him forever. That'll give him props forever, saving the NBA. He and Bird. That will, and it's because just think about it this way: terrible coach. Came back, had bombed on his way back. Then he got into ownership front office and bailed out in the middle of the night. And yet, when he saves the NBA, people are going to forget about that because of that.
Yeah.
Except for today's players that are making all the money they're making because they have a league, right? And now everybody's worried about load management when this guy saved it from tape delay, right, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely.
It did.
And it's like, we have one more. We better get to it before we were up.
Actually, you know what? We're over. Yeah, and Scott's got to get on the Sports Exchange.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, Jacob going with me.
Awesome.
For next week. That's all right.
No. We'll run it next week because that actually is an awesome topic. I know we went on the first three, but I do want to thank everybody for watching this episode of Pundits Pundit. Quite intense episode. Watch it as many times as you want because there's nothing but education flowing around here. Jen, real quick, let everybody know where they can find you.
3 Chicks in a Pod on Tuesday nights. Usually confidential, at least for one more week on Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. We're also launching Chicks and Salsa, not this week, but in 2 weeks. And we're taking a break from 3 Chicks this coming week also. NBA Carousel during the season. We're going to be starting in January, most likely. NFL Carousel. We've already started this season. I produce Basket Bros. Jay and I share producing Basket Bros. Obviously, the Pundits Pundit, and of course, Inside the Pigskin with Mr. Scott Motor City Mad Mouth. So,
All right.
and Jr. and Steve Bersetti.
Scott, real quick.
All right, real quick, at Tribune South on Twitter, www.southfloridatribune.com. Thanks for Danny Embley for doing a heck of a job with it. More importantly, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. That way you can see people like Denzel be coming on sooner than he thinks he knows. Okay. Jacob Christner and Jen fixers on the broadcast, as well as a lot of and JB, can't forget about this guy who's always on there, and the rest of the sideline crew that'll be working their way on our website as well. But yeah, I enjoy being on Pundits Pundit, really get my thing going, and Basket Bros as well, and anything that I'm a part of. So you guys are the best, and we go through 3 subjects with this passion, and you know what? For me, in quantity is quality, and that's what we proved tonight.
Jacob, real quick.
Pundits Pundit here. Sports Exchange right after. Thursday nights, the Yin and Yang with TJ Sanson. And then we'll also work on a movie with her. Talk about that later. Sunday nights, Basket Bros. Monday nights during the season, the NBA Carousel, Megan Price. Tuesdays for another week, it'll be confidential. Then figure it out from there. If so, we got it all going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all over the place. Tune in to Sideline Sports. Leave a like on any video that you check out. Right after this, head right on over to YouTube and on Scott's page and check out the Sports Exchange. Pundits Pundit Jacob Christner will be on there as well. Also, tune into the Sports Arena. That is tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Jenna Sherrill, Scott Motor City Madmouth, and Jacob Christner. We will see you in 7 days. Win the win, y'all. Peace.